The Cathedral of Siena, il Duomo, dedicated to the Virgin Mary, towering over its namesake piazza, constitutes one of the most outstanding examples of Italian Romanesque Gothic cathedrals. On the inside, the cathedral is home to numerous masterpieces executed throughout the centuries. The most exceptional work, for a variety of reasons, is the marble floor, started in the 14th century and finished in the 1800s. The preparatory drawings for the 56 inlay marble panels were designed by important painters and sculptors, all Sienese except for Bernardino di Beto, also known as Pinturicchio, who created the marble panel Hill of Virtue in 1505. The panels were created using the graffito and marble intarsia technique. Regarding the sculpture masterpieces in the Duomo, the greatest sculptors of every era worked in the cathedral. From Nicola Pisano, who created the pulpit from 1265 to 1268, to his son Giovanni, who sculptured the statues on the church's facade. There is also Donatello's statue of the Baptist, conserved in the chapel of St. John the Baptist, and started in 1482 as a reliquary to conserve the arm of the Baptist. Michelangelo sculpted 4 of the statues in the Piccolo Meany altarpiece: St. Peter, St. Paul, St. Pius, and St. Augustine. And even Gian Lorenzo Bernini left his touch on the cathedral, sculpting Mary Magdalene and St. Jerome in the Chigi Chapel, or the Chapel of the Madonna del Voto, built in 1658 on the commission of Pope Alexander VII, born Fabio Chigi. The chapel takes its name from the painting Madonna and Child, or Madonna del Voto, attributed to the late 13th century painter Dietiselvi di Spemi. On the nave altars, we can admire canvas paintings by various artists. Those of Sienese Mannerist painters stand out, while among the fresco cycles we see the hand of Domenica Beccafumi in the decoration of the apse, and of Ventura Salimbene in the frescoes of the presbytery. From the cathedral, it is possible to access the Piccolo Meany Library, a place of utmost importance for the cycle of frescoes executed by Pinturicchio between 1505 and 1507, representing the life of Pius II. 10 scenes are depicted, among which is the one narrating Emperor Frederick III, presented with Eleanor of Portugal at the Porta Comola in Siena. The radiant, grotesque vault presents a series of allegorical figures, scenes of pastoral life, and the Bacchanalia. At the center of the room, we can admire the marble Three Graces, a Roman copy of the Hellenistic original, while along the walls, inside a glass case, is a series of choir books, whose miniatures are the work not only of 15th century Sienese artists, but also of Liberale da Verona and Girolamo del Cremona, both called to work in Siena in the second half of the 1400s, and who considerably influenced the local painting style. The Museum of the Opera del Duomo is one of the oldest private museums in Italy. It was founded in 1870 on the approval of the Ministry of Public Education in an extremely fruitful period of production and creation. The location is prestigious. The collection is in fact conserved in the first 3 unfinished bays of the Duomo Nuovo, whose construction began in 1339 and was interrupted, never to be picked up again, after the Black Death in 1348. The rooms on the ground floor contain an extraordinary collection of marble sculptures coming from the facade of the cathedral. Represented are ancient sibyls, prophets, and philosophers, sculpted by Giovanni Pisano between 1285 and 1297. Additionally, there are numerous series of architectural fragments. It is worth noting Donatello's Tondo with the Madonna and Child, coming from the medieval altar in the chapel of Our Lady of Graces, Madonna delle Grazie, in the Duomo. In the back of the room is a large ocular window, once in the cathedral's apse, designed by Duccio di Buoninsegna between 1287 and 1290. The window measures 6 meters in diameter and depicts the burial, Assumption, and crowning of the Virgin, as well as Siena's 4 patron saints and the evangelists. The intense blue background, the golden yellow, the ruby red, the violet amethyst, and the violet amethyst and the emerald green of the clothes, together with the delicate pink chosen for the flesh, glow with an astonishing chromatic effect. On the first floor of the museum, you find Duccio di Buoninsegna's extraordinary altarpiece, Maestra, which stands out as one of the richest and fascinating pieces of Italian art from the early 1300s. The artist worked on it from 1308 to 1311, when, in a solemn procession, the finished work was brought to the Duomo. In the upper levels of the museum, there are a number of painted masterpieces, such as Madonna with the Big Eyes, one of the oldest works of the Siena school, realized by Maestro di Tessa in the second quarter of the 13th century. Before the Battle of Monteperti, September 4th, 1260, the people of Siena prayed before the painting, trusting their safety to the Virgin. Among the most original and precious works in the collection is the canvas painting St. Paul Enthroned, which demonstrates an absolute mastery of the Mannerist technique on the part of the artist, Domenico Beccafumi. There is an important copious collection of chalices, monstrances, incense burners, crosses, candlesticks, and reliquaries, one of which is worth noting, the reliquary of Saint Galgano in gilded silver, embossed, filigreed, and decorated with enamels from the 13th century, in addition to precious liturgical objects from the Chigi Chapel in embossed silver, enamels, gold, and quartz. It is also possible to admire the precious golden rose donated to the cathedral by Alexander VII in 1685 and designed by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. The room, that today is commonly called crypt, was rediscovered as we see it in 1999, following some restorations on the cathedral complex. This place likely served as a secondary entrance to the church, a sort of collection point for pilgrims who went to Siena by way of the Via Francigena and who could prepare themselves spiritually for their visit to the cathedral by reading the images painted on the walls. The fresco cycle that unfolds on the walls was painted by a series of artists working in Siena in the second half of the 1200s, among which are Guido da Siena, Dietti Salvi di Speme, Guido di Graziano, and Rinaldo da Siena. The young Duccio di Buoninsegna most likely worked side by side with them as well. The cycle is characterized by the brightness of its colors, which, in addition to the frescoes, also entirely cover the pillars, capitals, and corbels, decorated with geometric and plant motifs. The episodes depicted here are organized in 2 registers. In the upper band, by now almost completely gone, are scenes of the Old Testament, and in the lower band, the New Testament. The beginning of the series tells the story of the Annunciation, followed by the Visitation and the Nativity. The beginning of the series tells the story of the Annunciation, situated under the stories inspired by the Bible, by now very deteriorated. The massacre of the innocents and the baptism of Jesus come next, while under the arch on the left wall are the Last Supper and the foot washing. On the back wall, interrupted by a support structure, is the evocative kiss of Judas, as well as part of the flagellation. Extraordinary and solemn, the Passion of Christ is divided into three major moments: the crucifixion, the descent from the cross, and the burial of Jesus, or the entombment. On the same wall, one can see the harrowing of hell. The beautiful rest on the flight into Egypt, as narrated in the apocryphal Gospels, is painted on the left pillar in the main room. In the scene, coming from the Gospel of Pseudo-Matthew, Jesus miraculously makes a palm tree full of dates bend down so that his mother, who lay tired on the ground in the plant's shade, can take the fruit easily, restoring her strength. The baptistry, born as the parish church or the city's baptismal church, is the work of Cammaino di Crescentino, who worked on it until 1326, when the structure was completed. The building extends under the final bays of the cathedral's choir, and is characterized for its extremely tall Gothic facade, executed in white marble and decorated with red marble of Girfalco. The upper part of the facade remains unfinished. The inside, divided into two side aisles and a central nave with a groin vault, is completely frescoed and is one of the most representative examples of 15th century Sienese painting. The 12 scenes reproduced on the vaults by Lorenzo di Pietro, known as Vecchietta, between 1447 and 1450, narrate the articles of the Creed. After finishing the frescoes on the vaults, Vecchietta moved on to decorating the apse. In the upper arch of the apse, he painted the Assumption of the Virgin with angels. In the lower part of the apse, there are the Assumption, the Flagellation, and the way to the Calvary. The three parts of the vault over the apse were painted instead by Matteo Lambertini in 1447, depicting the agony in the garden, the crucifixion, and the lamentation of Christ. In the lunettes on the back wall in the left aisle, the fresco, The Miracles of Saint Anthony of Padua, 1460, by Benvenuto di Giovanni. In the right aisle, The Foot Washing, by Pietro degli Orioli. Also inside the baptistry, in the center, the baptismal font stands out. It is an extraordinary work, made in marble, bronze, and enamel, and sculpted between 1417 and 1431 by the major sculptors of the time, including Giovanni di Torino, Lorenzo Ghiberti, Donatello, Jacopo della Quercia. The font consists of a hexagonal basin with 6 gilded bronze panels representing the life of John the Baptist, with statues placed between each one portraying the virtues, 2 of which were sculpted by Donatello. Among the scenes, Lorenzo Ghiberti's relief, Baptism of Christ, stands out. An elegant and refined scene characterized by a pictorial effect and a sense of perspective thanks to a low-relief technique called stiacciato. The cycle finishes with the celebrated relief by Donatello, the Feast of Herod, the most moving scene for its dramatic theme and stylistic qualities.